there is quite a lot of, I'm not going to say negativity, I say more skepticism about games that are primarily using early access to fund their game, and it stays in early access for years and years and years. At what point do you think that becomes like too far? I mean, obviously, it's going to depend on the scale of the game and what type of game it is. But when it's the actual early access that is funding the game development itself, as opposed to going down a crowdfunding route, which is primarily what that is used for, like, what do you think the pros and cons of that for the game studio is, not only internally but from a publicity point of view?
I mean, quite frankly, there was always a lot of negativity around early access, and a lot of people just straight out just don't want to be involved with early access whatsoever. I personally think a lot of games use early access for what you described as a way to fund the development of the game. And I think, honestly, I feel what else would be early access used for than that? I mean, if you want to test your game, you can do free betas. Why would you ask more money? I mean, obviously you want to use early access to support the development of the game financially in a way. I mean, that's the whole point, if you ask me. And I mean, you can agree that this is a cool thing or not. I mean, in my opinion, the important thing is you have to be transparent, right? So in our case, CrossCode, I would argue, was a very big success in terms of early access, because we were always transparent about what this was going to be. Like we said, the game is incomplete. What we have is a very solid set of features. The game feels complete until you hit the end of the content. That's how we develop our games in general. And we will just use the early access to kind of finish up all the content. That was the deal from the beginning. And I would argue a lot of people who bought the game on early access did it exactly as a way to support the development. You could just use crowdfunding, but I would argue crowdfunding is also very limited in ways, since there's only like this small time window where you can do it. Whereas early access, you can do it for a longer time. Also, I would argue that like the kind of money you can get with a good crowdfunding campaign is, I would argue, it's almost unrealistic to get enough money to actually develop an ambitious game like a proper action RPG or JRPG. I mean, those titles, they do take a long time to develop, which is costly. And I see a lot of crowdfunding games who ask for like, yeah, 50,000, 90,000, 100,000 US dollars or something like that. You really don't get that far with this. Unless you're like a single developer who is just working himself to the like with the lowest amount of money possible. So there might be a way to finish it, but it's not realistic. And I think what happens is people just ask for way too less money just because they think it's realistic. Otherwise, you cannot ask, you cannot just make a crowdfunding for 300,000. It's probably not work unless you are like an exceptionally successful case. So people ask for really little money, and yeah, so try to finish the game with this. It's really hard. So, and that's why I think early access can be a lot more effective in that sense, in that it can give you a way for more people to support development over time if they like the game and it speaks around. And the other important thing is you just need to keep people updated. So we did try to make regular updates for CrossCode. Those got slower towards the end of early access, but we always try to be transparent about what's happening, what we are working on. And ultimately, the thing is, we actually delayed the release for CrossCode 6 times in total. We were planning to release the game 1 year after we started early access. Then we delayed it again and again and again and again. And what is surprising, the far majority, what everybody said is, that's cool, take your time. The most important thing is the game will be good in the end. That's
Yep.
what really, I would argue 99% of the people said. There was just a few people who complained about us delaying the game over and over again. I think the important thing is they need to see that you're working on stuff, that you're making progress. There's more stuff added. You can see, okay, the content is getting longer, but it just takes longer than expected. And we did this for 3.5 years. And in the end, people were, I would argue, very happy with the end result. And that's why I think we will likely be able to do this again with Alabaster Dawn. Obviously, I'm hoping for a shorter early access, but I don't want to. And we also will have a longer game when the early access starts, because CrossCode was really, really short when we started early access. It was a playtime of maybe an hour or two. Imagine that, 1 hour or two, and then it grew into a 40-hour game during early access. That's what we did.